Welcome to the Geek Fix right here on Thinking Critical Patreon. Although the first segment is always up on YouTube just as a little free view and let people know there's some badass stuff going over on the Thinking Critical Patreon. And with me as always is Aaron Sparrow. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing all right.
We have a good week here. We're going to be talking about some awards that were handed out by Comics Beat. We're going to be talking Star Wars, TMNT, lots of fun stuff, the future of comic books, all that kind of stuff. But we will talk about these awards first, Aaron. And I would say after reading this article, I can see why the comic book media can no longer influence actual comic book readers, because the disconnect between the media themselves and the readers is so cavernous. I don't think they can see each other at this point.
Oh, no, I ain't seen nothing. I ain't seen nothing. Matter of fact, I'm blind in my left eye and 43% blind in my right eye. I don't see much of nothing. As a matter of fact, I can't even see you, sir.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous. I asked the question, just if a comic site that nobody reads or trusts has, awards, end of the year awards, did they really happen? Does it really matter what they think because nobody reads or trusts them? It's just
not. But it is good fodder for material because they're so laughably stupid that you have to acknowledge them just for the sake of entertainment.
Well, it's not even the Beat Awards; it's the Cronyism Awards. It's like, here I gave awards to all of my personal friends, it's unbelievable, and we're gonna have some fun with it.
Yeah, so we've got 4 awards we're gonna talk to, kind of highlighting just how out of touch Heidi McDonald and the Comics Beat are with actual people that read comic books, like you, I, and obviously the people watching the video. First up, the 2023 Comics Industry Person of the Year is Sloan Leong, an acclaimed cartoonist for books such as Prism Stalker and A Map to the Sun. In 2023, Leong made news for co-founding Cartoonist Cooperative, a member-driven organization working to improve and protect the labor rights of comic industry workers worldwide. Springing up in the aftermath of the hashtag Comics Broke Me movement and ongoing calls for labor organization at many levels of the industry, Cartoonist Co-op became a leading example of creators can make things better. The 700-member group is working together to give members career development resources, creative feedback, and assistance, promotional campaigns for members' comics, and exclusive discounted benefits and more. Who the fuck is Sloan Leong?
I've never even heard of this.
You don't know her?
I don't know. Well, I don't know her, but I've never heard of this cooperative. Sounds like in the words of Norm Macdonald
in a video if I thought it was real.
It sounds like some goddamn commie gobbledygook.
Have you read Prism Stalker or A Map to the Sun?
No, this is the first I've ever heard of either of those.
Yeah, no one's ever heard of that stuff. It's absolutely hilarious. Going through a lot of these lists of the top 10 comic books of the year. They throw on 2 books that you might have heard of. They always throw on Birds of Prey for some reason. I guess Kelly Thompson is a big deal. And then they'll throw in maybe a Fire and Ice or maybe that Alan Scott book. And then it's 8 other books that nobody read other than the person that wrote them.
Well, because it's like the Eisners, which is, years ago, having worked with San Diego and, knowing several people who were judges on the Eisners, and even having myself been part of the Russ Manning Awards, you are heavily encouraged to choose books based on the demographics of the author and not necessarily the quality of the book, so that when the list comes out, you have a list of diverse peoples, as opposed to a list of the best books of the year. So I assume it's just very much like that. It's like, okay, well, throw in a couple of mainstream books that people have heard of so that the list has some credibility, and now let's go through and fill the rest with checkboxes.
Yeah, I have just a feeling, a hunch here, Aaron, that the Cartoonist Cooperative has never helped anybody. This is probably an award based on perhaps in time Sloan Leong and this organization will do something for someone.
Maybe someday, we'll actually have some small effect on the comic book industry.
But there you go, the Person of the Year, someone nobody that reads comic books or even cares about comic books has ever heard of. And we were told by Brian Hibbs. You remember him from Comics Experience in San Francisco?
Yeah, he writes that Tilting at Windmills comic or column that never has any practical advice.
And he says there's no culture war issues within comic books, right? That was his big statement. And anyone that says otherwise is like a scumbag or something. Mm-hmm. Stupid.
Yeah, we're all just grifting.
This is the Comics Beat Activist of the Year. Leong wasn't the only activist to get a mention. Last year's co-winner Maya Kababi, still the victim of book bannings across the country, was noted several times, as was the founder of the Comic Books Broke Me movement, Shivana Sukhdeo, and the person who sadly inspired it, Maya Kababi, unjustly became the face of banned books when genderqueer became a frequent target of the alt-right. Have banned this unfortunate title with incredible poise and bravery. I wish A didn't have to be, but A are inspiring. And that is a real line from the Comics Beat Awards by Heidi MacDonald. This whole alt-right trying to ban genderqueer is one of the dumbest lies out there. It's complete gaslighting, Aaron.
Yeah, the book has not been banned. The book has been removed from schools because, parents have rightly decided that they don't want weird groomer porn in the schools. And that isn't an alt-right position. That is a parental position from people all over the political spectrum that have protested this book being in school libraries and being taught to their kids. From Muslim families to, secular families to, Democrats to Republicans. There's plenty of people from all walks of life who have come in and said, yeah, we just don't want this book being taught to our kids. It hasn't been banned. There haven't been, mass book burnings and massive censorship. The book's allowed to exist. It's just been kicked out of schools where it doesn't belong.
Get out of here, man.
Isn't it weird that people are pushing for a book that literally shows kids how to give other kids blowjobs, like putting those in they're trying to get those put into like kindergartens and elementary schools and middle schools and stuff.
Yeah, like pushing those out of those spaces is not an alt-right position.
No, it just feels like I don't know, a responsible parent or responsible adult position at this point.
Yeah, and as you read that description, I like for a moment I thought you were having a stroke.
No.
What was can you reread that for me?
A have handled this unfortunate title with incredible. It says pose, but I think it's supposed to be poise and bravery. I wish A didn't have to be, but A are inspiring.
A are inspiring? Augmented reality inspiring?
No, I believe is the pronoun. EY.
Okay, that's not off-putting and hard to read and complicating things.
Instead of using they, them, I think they're even removing the TH because maybe the TH is gender specific.
Is it? Is they gender specific?
It wasn't. This is why I stopped trying to play the pronoun game in videos, because it's hard to continue speaking once you realize how stupid you sound when you're fucking all your pronouns and everything up, and it's like hard to keep a straight linear thought and actually get through what you're doing. So I had to just give it up altogether, even though you try to be nice to people, but at this point it's so fucking stupid just to try and keep up with all this stupidity. It's not really worth it anymore, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm not. Look, maybe I'm just an old man yelling at a cloud.
Are you an AM?
I am not an AM. I identify with the regular pronouns, and I don't feel the need to have special ones because I need to be somehow validated by people as a beautiful and unique snowflake. I'm quite happy using the pronouns that everybody else uses. Thank you.
Yeah, it's weird. So there is no culture war going on in comic books, according to Brian Hibbs.
Maybe AM feels differently.
The Comics Beat are the ones that actually promote and publish his Tilting at Windmills newsletters, and they're out here congratulating and awarding like Activist of the Year awards in an industry where this doesn't take place.
No, not at all. Yeah, really strange.
Activist of the Year. Did you ever think we would get to a point where like the world would be this stupid, Aaron?
No. I can't. I remember when I was growing up hearing adults say, "Stop the world, I want to get off," and I never quite understood it. And man, I understand it now. But my big takeaway from this is that A is very inspiring. Teaching kindergartners to give blowjobs is just so inspiring.
Absolutely inspiring. A have handled this unfortunate title with incredible pose and bravery. I wish A didn't have to be, but A are inspiring. It's hard.
You wish someone didn't have to be inspiring. That's also a weird thing to say. You should wish for more people to be inspiring. Of course, I don't think A is inspiring. I don't think this agenda of pushing sex onto children is inspiring at all. But I guess Heidi.
I can't wait for Disney to buy the rights to this and put it on Disney Plus for Disney Junior kids.
Oh man, you're
like
probably not far,
move, doesn't it?
It sounds like you're engaging in hyperbole, but in clown world, I can actually imagine this happening.
So could I. That's the worst part about it. Oh my goodness. That's not all. We've also got the publisher of the year, and this might be nothing can be the most ridiculous because it's all ridiculous. Change is needed on a grassroots level, but the industry also needs innovative business ideas to move forward. Distillery, the new publishing company founded by David Steinberger and Chip Mosher, was mentioned many times as a company that was making a splash. And with their innovative and sometimes controversial print digital collectible model, they are truly trying new things. So Distillery is somehow the publisher of the year. Like, how many comics did they publish in the year? Like 4? 2?
No, like 2 before the end of 2024, maybe 2.
The one issued by Jock, I know that. It was $9
issued by Jock.
95% of it was returned.
Yeah, the intro book that like retailers returned in mass numbers, so it didn't make any money. Publisher of the year, and with their innovative new business strategy, which is NFTs but not calling them NFTs.
You know that's bad for the environment, according to some people.
Well, they're the publisher of the year, Wes. How can you question it? Certainly, it doesn't have anything to do with the personal relationships involved. The fact that Chip and Heidi are buddies. Like I said, this is the Crony Awards. I guess Distillery. You would think it would be Skybound, but someone who's actually making a difference by making sales.
They had a book that went to #1 that wasn't by DC or Marvel. It was by Skybound. It was Transformers #1, and the book has maintained its spot in the top 10. They reintroduced in the Energon universe and Void Rivals. They also had an issue of G.I. Joe, Duke #1, come out in the calendar year. And they've made those properties hot again. I would say that's quite the accomplishment in a dead year.
I would say so too. I dare say that Skybound is the publisher of the year. But, maybe Robert Kirkman isn't buddies with Heidi, and maybe he didn't have an extra $40 Target gift card lying around that he could kick to the beat. So, he didn't get the nod.
What Distillery accomplished? Don't you have to accomplish something to be the publisher of the year?
You would think. It's your publisher of the year because you have an innovative strategy that has not proven to be successful because you just got started. I mean, look, it may prove to be successful. I don't think it will. I don't think there's any world where
collectibles have already proven to be fool's gold. It was already not successful in many places.
Yeah, and otherwise you're just grabbing successful artists and having them put out books, but that's not an innovative strategy. Ghost Machine is about to do that, and I think they're going to do much better. I think they're going to crush Distillery's sales.
Of course,
because they have actual talent at the helm that understands the comic market.
And they have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
These guys just went out there and got funding.
You got to tech.
You can get rich people to give you money for no reason.
Yeah, and then you just had to put out a bunch of originals. Well, I mean, how's that different from Comixology originals? And does anybody ever talk about the Comixology originals that Chip put out?
No, because it's Chip Mosher. That's your boy, not mine.
That's my boy. That guy loves me.
So, that just shows you what a joke it is. They didn't even go out and acknowledge a publisher that made money or did something that got people excited about comic books. They went out there and recognized a publisher that's likely going to go bankrupt within 24 months because their model is stupid.
As long as they have tech money behind them and they can continue to convince people with money to pour more money into the
with 95% return rate, man.
I'm sure they find a way to hide that.
That book was very high quality. It cost a lot of money to print.
Don't worry, man. We're going to get into Hollywood. I'm sure that's the thing. We're going to get those Hollywood deals because Hollywood's doing so great right now. And streaming is doing so great. They're just handing out. You just send a book in and they write you a check. That's how it's working right now.
I wouldn't say so. Now with the creator of the year, they couldn't even come up with one, Aaron. They had to come up with 3. It's the creators of the year. If we are going to pick creators of the year, it's inevitable James Tynion, who continues to lead the way with best-selling books, and his dissection of his method and industry trends in an ongoing dialogue with Sketched helped give him the voice. No one's reading that. But Dan Sanson, the first solo cartoonist to win a National Book Award for his YA graphic novel, First Time for Everything, also ranked high. And Rachel Smythe, whose groundbreaking Lore Olympus helped launch an entire imprint. James Tynion wins every year for best comic book writer, at least at the Eisners. At least he has sales. At least there's some fucking success attached to his name.
Yeah, I don't know, the breakdown of his process. I mean, it's kind of...
He's got this ongoing interview with the guy at Sketched, who's buddies with Heidi McDonald. She's always on his podcast, whatever. And it was like 11 parts, but it's the most boring thing you've ever read in your life. It was not worth the time.
So these awards are the people that I know in the industry awards, because it's just all people that you have a personal connection. That would be like if I was like, okay, I'm going to give YouTuber of the year. I'm going to give that to Wes, and I'm going to give,
because I deserve it.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, clearly, but so I'm going to get but I just don't step outside of my immediate circle. So let's see, who's the curmudgeon of the year is Doc. Actually, you know what? These all make sense. I'm not illustrating my point, because a case could be made for all of these.
James Tynan makes sense. I personally think he's overrated, and he's not. He's an average writer. I don't think he's above average, but he actually sells. So you have to acknowledge that. Whatever you want to give to James Tynan, do it. Dan Santat, he won a National Book Award for a YA graphic novel. What are we covering? Kids graphic novels now?
Well, yeah.
What is this?
That's all comics. It's all part of comic success, Wes. Off of these three people, I would say give it to the creator of Lore Olympus. That's actually a big deal.
Even that's a webtoon.
Yeah, but it sells books. Like I see books in the bookstore, and I see girls congregating around it, and so
people
good
might
for
not
her.
believe this that are viewers of this channel, but Rachel Smythe and Lore Olympus eat fucking Batman for lunch in graphic novel sales. They're up there. Her sales are right up there with the best-selling manga books. The only thing in the North American comic book market that could even compete at that scale for the last 12 months was the Last Ronin TMNT book, the hardcover especially.
Yep. So we'll be bold here, and we'll actually choose one person out of this list, and we'll give it to Lore Olympus.
Well, yeah, that one was certainly the most successful, but since she's supposedly covering the American comic industry, I don't know does she even know what she's covering anymore?
I mean, nobody reads it, so who cares? Does it matter? this is just a hobby site. It doesn't have any real impact on the industry. It doesn't, it certainly doesn't have its finger on the pulse of the industry.
No, Maya Kababi is the most blacklisted person in comics because they can't promote blowjobs to 8-year-olds.
What? I mean, they'd like to try.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that's the point. That's the thing that's disgusting about it. That
the activist of the year is just there's no culture war, but we have an activist of the year award.
And I thought this was the best part, the very last thing that they did on there when they're acknowledging other people. And this was the funniest part. It says, and finally, the ones we're all thinking about, the modern comic book retailer. And the picture that they use when they point this out is of an old spinner rack from the 60s or 70s. And it is not even remotely expressive of modern comic book shops today.
Well, I mean, it's because you don't want to just have a depressing card table
with a
little hand-lettered sign that says new comics and has 12 things on there, because that's the only thing. That's the only amount. That's the sheer amount of books that they can sell in a week.
It just felt we thought about you so much. We even have a picture from 60 years ago.
Hey kids, comics.
Yeah. It's a weird thing, but I don't know, man. If that's the disconnect that there is there, Heidi and the people who are at the comics beat, and obviously with the Mary Sue, which is even weirder if you go read their stuff. The only thing that's readable about the Mary Sue are the descriptions of the writers, because they're always completely hilarious. It feels like a parody fucking thing.
I mean, it kind of is. Yeah, it's kind of a parody.
They're supposed to be real, I believe, but your Rich Johnsons, these morons, the dude from Distillery, they think they have their pulse on what comic books. They only have their pulse on each other's dicks. That's it. They have no idea what comic book readers actually want.
I think in the chat we're probably going to have a lot of people going, "What's Distillery?" I'm sorry, we keep saying it wrong. It's Distillery. Distillery.
Distillery.
There's no vowels. Distillery, because that's cool. That's hip. That's what the kids are doing. Remember when everything, remember back when everybody was using a Z instead of an S to pluralize things because it was extreme. Now taking the vowels out.
You take the E out of the X for extreme. You just start with an X.
Yeah, extreme. That's what this is. This is this is Salad Shredders, the comic company.
Yeah, you don't have to actually sell any books to make this list. You don't have to make any type of actual impact that's measurable on the comic book industry.
You don't have to have any buzz amongst retailers or fans.
Well, you need to be an activist and have been friends with one of Heidi's friends to make the list. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know, that's what it is, Aaron. Now, I do want to say thank you very much. Now, we're not done. This is only the first 20 minutes or so of our conversation here for the Geek Fix. but we're going to take it offline off the YouTubes, and we're going to go over to the Patreon, and we're going to be talking about some TMNT stuff, what's going on there. We're going to be talking some Star Wars stuff, some other comic book issues, and we have a lot more fun over on the Patreon because it's a little more free flowing.
Yeah, and sometimes we get into the weeds. We start talking about we get off topic and we do a deep dive on some subject that is interesting to us.
Jonathan Lithgow?
Yep. We'll talk about Jonathan Lithgow for a while and his best movies. It's pretty fun. We have less structure and can kind of just go wild.
And there is a link to that in the video description.